Hello, welcome to the Geekly. My name is Jules.
I'm Leks.
Today we're talking about Watchmen, we're talking about American Horror Story, we're talking about The Mandalorian, His Dark Materials, and we're talking about
Titans.
Yeah, should we start with Watchmen?
Yeah, it's still going strong.
Yeah.
This episode in particular, I really just appreciated the humor of the show, which is very dark and offbeat. The instance I'm thinking of is when they're talking about heaven with the kids, and the dad is just like, yeah, heaven's not real, and Jed is nothing now, and Angela's like, really? You're gonna tell them that he's nothing? And it just, it struck me as really funny and, very on-brand humor for Watchmen, and,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I love that, yeah. He was nothing, he lived, now he's nothing again. And these three children are just... And two of them are very young, aren't they? And they're just all sat around the table. I wasn't expecting Dad to say that.
Yeah, and how often do you get that on a TV show where the person is just like, yeah, there's no heaven? On TV shows, even if the family's not religious, they, do this sort of Christian mythos about the afterlife. And so it was just kind of very refreshing to get this kind of very blunt, yeah, he's just gone, that's it.
There's a good balance, I think, between the humour and the serious nature of this TV show. What did you make of the opening scene? Because I think it was one of the greatest opening 3 minutes of TV I've seen in a very long time. Woman appears, I'm going to give you 5 million and a child in return for your house and all the land
and
around
you have
it.
3 minutes to decide, or I'm just going to well, and again, there's another humorous moment which is well, I'll have to destroy the child.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
That was a great intro for the character of Lady True, and this was kind of her episode. We find out that she's involved in kind of everything we already know about the story. She's got a hand in all kinds of aspects of the Watchmen world. She's a trillionaire. She's making this huge clock, and some of the machinery that's used to build the clock could have been used to steal the car and subsequently return the car. So they go to talk to her about that, and in Vietnamese we find out that Angela's got Vietnamese kind of heritage.
She grew up in Vietnam.
She grew up in Vietnam. The two have this conversation in Vietnamese. Your grandfather says, did you get the pills? And she says something like, you tell that old fucker he can come and ask me himself. So the kind of the mystery is evolving in different ways. We're 4 episodes in, and in many respects we still don't really know a great deal that's actually going on. We're getting a very stylized, well-told TV show, but unlike other TV shows, it's not just vomiting answers all over us with every episode that goes by. There's great build-up here.
There is great build-up. I think I'm starting to get to the point that I want some answers now. In the next couple of episodes, that they need to give me a little something so I can start putting the puzzle together myself. But I do appreciate that we aren't getting these huge info dumps, because a lot of shows fall into that temptation where, they're building the world and the writers get so caught up in the world that they're making and so excited about it that they just throw a bunch of shit at the audience that isn't really necessary. Titans. And so I am enjoying the mystery, but it's starting to get to the point where they need to start giving us a few answers here and there, not the whole picture or even big answers, just little bits that we can start connecting the pieces together.
The second big link she has to the rest of the story, and this was a weird one for me, this big golden statue of Adrian Veidt as an old man who looked exactly like the old man Adrian Veidt that we are seeing. It makes me wonder whether she's seen him as an old man and has commissioned this. So is she something to do with Adrian's kind of exile in this Truman Show, the Dome world that he's living in? Do you think there's any link between the two characters?
Oh, definitely. I think, when you said that she's kind of got her hands in all things Watchmen, that, that's a fairly accurate assessment of Lady True. I don't know what role she's ultimately going to end up playing, whether she's going to be a villain or an ally or kind of a mix of the two, but she does seem incredibly connected to everything in the universe, and I really enjoy her character. She takes the kind of eccentric trillionaire to a new level that we haven't really seen before.
Episode 1, Angela burst onto the scene. Episode 3, Laurie's burst onto the scene. Episode 4, Lady True, in that great opening sequence, has burst onto the scene. As you said last week, some great female roles in this, and it's kind of the reverse of Watchmen, because there was it 3 guys, 4 guys. I suppose the comedian died almost immediately. 4 guys, 1 woman. We're getting a story that's being kind of acted out by women, which I think is really great. It was a bit of a sausage fest, the opening, the graphic novel, so it's nice to see some different stories being told here. And they're all incredibly captivating in completely different ways.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the amazing part, and none of them fall into the kind of tropes that female characters usually fall into. Like last week, I talked about how we got to see two sides of Laurie Blake. One, kind of hard ass FBI agent, and a sort of softer side with her conversations with Dr. Manhattan, and yet it didn't weaken her character at all. It kind of enhanced her strength that she had these kind of softer moments with Dr. Manhattan, and I think a lot of times in TV shows there's this undercutting of strong female characters where they can't be too strong because then they might be masculinized. But we've got Angela and Laurie and Lady True now, and as you said, like they're captivating. They're characters in their own right, and it's really great to see a show that's being headed by like three very strong women.
The third bit of connective tissue between Lady True and what's going on before is that she seems to have a relationship with William, the grandfather of Angela. He's just sat there and suddenly he can walk. And William's talking about the fact that in 3 days, Angela will know that he has betrayed her. So obviously she rescued him with this car lift, removing him from the situation. What do you think they're kind of coming up with? And what is this big clock that's being made?
Like, I have no idea. It kind of goes back to what I was saying before, that like they need to start dropping kind of more clues about what's going on. They've created a really good mystery. They've created several really good mysteries, and now I want to start the process of trying to figure them out. And I think William is a really interesting character because, I mean, the very first scene of the season started with him as a child and the massacre in Tulsa, which we still haven't gotten a lot of explanation about. And then he just kind of reappears. Supposedly he's the one who strung up Jed. Is he really the one who strung up Jed, or was he just there? Was Lady True involved in that somehow? Was that part of their plan?
It's somehow more believable now because he can walk, but still, I want to know what happened that night. There's a lot of mystery about
there are so many questions. I think it's a really difficult balance to manage, to like keep the audience engaged but also kind of keeping them in the dark at the same time. So they're doing a good job with that.
Yeah, I'm liking the way it's going, but yeah, maybe we'll have some answers next week. We've got to briefly talk about Adrian fishing for babies. He puts them in a machine. The catapult is sending them through some kind of barrier.
I'm very intrigued about what's going on with him. The fishing for babies thing was just really, every scene with him is just really bizarre, and Jeremy Irons does it amazingly. It's kind of like the perfect role for him, this eccentric madman just doing God knows what. Yeah, I want some backstory on what's going on with him.
So we're still enjoying Watchmen, but we probably need something to change next week.
There's only so long they can tease out the mystery before it starts to become frustrating, and we're very close to getting to that point where it's more frustrating than intriguing. Okay,
let's move on to Titans. I've got a question for you. The Alpha story is Deathstroke. The Beta or Bravo story, Starfire and Blackfire. Was this the episode 10 of 13? Was this the episode to introduce 3 C-level storylines, none of which were resolved in this episode? Dick in prison, Connor, Gar and Crypto going to Cadmus, and Rachel making a friend, and now Donna is kind of on the trail of that murder. What was this the time to introduce 3 new storylines?
I mean, like 2 weeks ago I said we needed to get back to the Deathstroke storyline, and we still haven't done that. We had like a brief acknowledgement that it still exists with Dick going to visit Jericho's parents and having the kind of confrontation with Deathstroke, but we haven't gone back to the main storyline in quite a while. The storylines we're following aren't even the most compelling characters. Jason and Rose, where are they? Like, we're following Gar and fucking Connor. Like, come on.
So true.
The Rachel story, it's kind of a repeat of what happened in season 1. She just decided to run off and is now using her powers for evil.
At least they're committing to the fact that somehow she's got a handle on her powers. Yeah, that's the only good thing to come out of that story.
Dick in prison was largely uneventful. There was a brief moment I thought we might get a glimpse of some Nightwing stuff, which would have been exciting, but it didn't happen. Yeah, it's a largely unmemorable episode, and it's slightly concerning that the showrunners don't seem to know how to tell their own story.
Yeah,
because they have a good story. They have a good story. They have good characters. They have the money behind the production, but they're just going off on all of these weird tangents that are unnecessary.
Yeah, this felt like a filler episode, and I think we've had a few already this season. I don't know why episode 10 is the time for that. We feel like we should be building everybody should be coming together, building for this big confrontation with Deathstroke. But These storylines were not resolved here. They're going to all continue into episode 11. They were talking about Al Azul, this bird that comes at night to save people. It's obviously the Nightwing tease, but I found it to be quite a lame way to introduce the idea of Nightwing. Dick is obviously on a very self-destructive route. I don't know whether he wants to just be in prison for life or he wants to actually get killed in prison.
It doesn't make sense what he's doing. And he spent like most of the episode being like, I'm done helping people. And then what does he do? He comes out and like kicks the guards' asses. I don't understand why they put him in prison in the first place. Meanwhile, like, everybody's trying to get in touch with Dick, and like, as far as leadership goes, it's a really shit move to be like, yeah, I'm just gonna get myself arrested and thrown in prison, and everybody else can go fuck themselves. But I mean, I suppose they did walk out on him, but you know, he knows that like Gar has Connor, and he should know. I mean, I knew that Gar wasn't going to actually call Bruce Wayne.
It's taken a turn. I think the first 6 episodes we were kind of really into it,
yeah.
And then there were too many flashbacks for my liking, and now they don't know how to finish their season. And like I said last week, I enjoy what I'm being shown. It's all very pretty and it's all very kind of engaging, a lot of fights, and they're good fight scenes and things like that, but it's just all in a weird order. This episode I want them to be coming together, maybe next episode coming up with a plan, and then 12 and 13 is a 2-parter of them getting Deathstroke. Is that too much to ask to just put a bow on this season and let's head to season 3? I just don't know what's happening really.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty fair assessment. I mean, that's exactly what I want to happen, but I don't know what direction they're going to go. Like, every time that they should zig, they zag, and, you know, Watchmen does that very well. When they zag, you look at it and you think, oh yeah, actually, that's the direction they should have been going in all along. But when Titans zags, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Why are we over here now? So it's, you have like these two shows that are doing kind of similar things, but one is doing it very well and the other is sort of fumbling around in the dark, and it's kind of disappointing because Titans is a really strong show. It's very pretty, it's engaging, the characters are compelling. They're just not telling the story in the right way, and it's very frustrating.
All the elements are there to beat Deathstroke. Put a goddamn bow on it. Let's just end this season.
Yeah.
But we're going to have 3 more episodes. It's going to be a lot of padding, a lot of filler, a lot of time wasting, and they're going to keep
probably
Connor...
another flashback episode.
Yeah. They're going to keep Connor in the shadows for as long as they can, like Captain Marvel in Endgame, and then he'll come in the final moments to probably do something amazing, or the dog. Stick a bow on it, DC Universe. It's all there.
It's not that complicated.
No.
Let's talk about the season finale of American Horror Story. I still feel like the season actually ended on episode 5 or 6, whenever the 1984 thing ended.
I think you're right. Let's just pretend that 1984 was the boundaries of the story. I don't really understand why you'd build up a big final confrontation and then you'd tell us about it rather than showing it to us. Jingle's son meets Montana and Trevor, and they just recount what happened in 1989, robbing it of all kind of emotional impact.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice to see Finn Wittrock. I've enjoyed him in American Horror Story before. I don't understand why they made the decision to do this episode the way they did. I expected more out of the final episode.
I was kind of hoping for a music festival slaughter.
They built that up. Montana and all the other ghosts had this plan to kill everybody and then they suddenly changed their minds about that at the last minute. It seemed really weird. Yeah,
it was all tell don't show. Yeah, what an underwhelming way to end the season. Just really anticlimactic would be the way I would describe it.
Yeah, definitely anticlimactic. For me, the past couple seasons of American Horror Story have been really off and disappointing, and I think this is probably the cheesiest season of American Horror Story ever, which is not a good thing to say about something that's called American Horror Story, that is cheesy.
This may even be worse than Apocalypse.
I would rather watch Apocalypse than 1984.
Yeah.
Apocalypse at least had some good moments to it. This was just the entire season I was questioning their choices and wondering why they were making the decisions they made. And even at the end, Bobby Richter coming back to the camp, and he almost gets killed by Ricky Ramirez, gets stabbed in the back, goes and finds Donna and gets the rest of the story, and still feels compelled to go back to Camp Redwood, even though he's been told over and over and over again that everybody there wants to kill him. And it's just why would you do that? If gotten stabbed in the back, I'd be yeah, I don't fuck closure. I don't need to see my dead dad. Like, I'm not going back to that place.
Yeah, I'd quite like them to do a story told over a whole season rather than several small stories. I'm at a low point with American Horror Story right now because it just felt like they didn't know what they were doing.
Yeah, you know, I was like about 10 minutes into the last episode, I almost said to you, you know what, why don't we just scrap American Horror Story and not watch the rest of this episode?
Yeah. Let's talk about The Mandalorian. Set 5 years after Return of the Jedi, I read somewhere that it was $12.5 million an episode, possibly slightly disputed, and you could see every penny of it on the screen. The episode was only 36 minutes long, which I was kind of into. I don't really watch anything that's only 36 minutes long. A real treat for the eyes. I have some things I liked, things I didn't like. What were your kind of thoughts about it?
I really enjoyed it. Like, I'm not a huge fan of the Star Wars universe. Like, I've watched all of the films, but I'm by no means an expert on how the universe works and stuff. And I really enjoyed the fact that we got away from the Jedis in this and got to see some other parts of the universe and explore some areas that we haven't got to explore before. Plus, the space western is kind of one of my favorite genres. It's up there. I think most of the shows that the sci-fi shows that I like the best that take place in space have this kind of like space western atmosphere to them. So I'm really into that. Love the fact that he didn't take his helmet off. I hope he never takes his helmet off. I think it adds something interesting to the character, and it's not something that's often done. Like, there's this kind of obsession with seeing main characters' faces in somewhat ridiculous ways. You know, like you have on the cop shows them running in without helmets or any sort of gear or anything, so you can see the actors' faces, and it just feels not genuine. Whereas this was very in character, that he keeps his helmet on. And actually, you know, going into it, like, I came home, it was late, I wasn't really into watching TV and like analyzing something. And I was like, oh wait, it's only half an hour. It's no big deal. I can do that. By the end of it, I was like, I want more. So for me, that's a success.
Yeah, I really like the original trilogy. I used to watch them on VHS with my parents that they'd recorded it onto. I wasn't a big fan of the prequel trilogy because I found them just incredibly boring.
I think everybody did.
It was a lot about politics, a lot about, you know, diplomacy and things like that, rather than big confrontations. Really disliked episode 7 because it was entirely rehashed material from what had gone on before, I thought. Really liked Rogue One. So my history with Star Wars is a bit all over the place. The space western, like you said, it was like they were at a saloon, like a proper western saloon, having this shootout. Really enjoyed that, and it's got a great aesthetic to it. Every kind of landscape looks amazing, but at the same time you've got the very practical effects on people's faces. Like, it's a bit of Jim Henson at times. You can see the little puppets in the cages at one point. Nick Nolte's face, it didn't look CGI because it was an actual practical effect. So I like the balance. And you've got the really great money shots of when he's flying through space looking at the planets and stuff, but then you've got a very rustic kind of feel to it as well. My issue with it is because I'm not entirely sure what the demographic of the show is, and it is on Disney, so it's probably to be expected that everything is kind of PG-13, but the blue guy in the opening sequence really played for laughs, like a real kind of dopey character, and I thought, I'm not sure, because I watched the trailers and I thought it was maybe more of as far as Disney can go in the adult direction. I thought that's probably what we're getting. And then the next scene, you've got
I think we are getting as far as Disney can go in the adult direction.
I thought the Werner Herzog scene straight after it was really good, really like captivating. He was such a good bit of casting for that role. And then we go straight to him meeting Nick Nolte and learning to write, was it a blurg or something? And him being like bucked off. And I thought that was a strange way to go with the character of the Mandalorian in the first episode. I thought he'd be shown as kind of like infallible, like kind of perfect at everything, but okay, the guy's fallible. And then we get Taika Waititi as the droid with the saloon sequence, and again, even though it was deadpan delivery, almost every word out of his mouth was kind of with comic intention. I've activated self-destruct mode. Don't activate self-destruct mode. That kind of stuff. So tonally, it was completely not what I was expecting. I mean, it's Disney, so it's probably aimed at the whole family, and it's kind of the thing I walked away thinking. I wanted this to be darker.
But Star Wars isn't really dark. I mean, I think the combination of Star Wars and Disney, it was never going to be dark. You know, it's not going to be Watchmen level. Like, I actually appreciated the humor in it. I didn't find it tonally off at all. I thought it was very in keeping with the Star Wars brand, which it does have quite a lot of comic relief. I mean, you think about C-3PO, totally comic relief. Chewie as well, Jar Jar Binks, of course, obviously comic relief, not done very well, but there. So I think the comedy aspect of it has always been part of the Star Wars universe, and it's the Star Wars isn't dark. It just isn't.
If it remains this kind of comic, it's not really going to be a show for me, I don't think. And I mean, The Mandalorian isn't Luke Skywalker. He's not like Rey or something. I thought he'd be very stoic, like Boba Fett, you know, and so there'd be like no humour involved with him at all. But there was a surprising amount of humour, and that threw me completely. What did you make of the cast? I mean, Pedro Pascal from Game of Thrones as the Mandalorian. Him. So good. Yeah. Such a great delivery.
I mean, like, I absolutely fell in love with him in Game of Thrones, and I was absolutely crushed when
So was he.
Yeah. Basically, I'm completely sold on this show. Like, I'm in favor of it.
Werner Herzog I thought was perfect. Nick Nolte, I didn't know it was Nick Nolte till I read it.
I didn't know it was Nick Nolte until you just said that it was Nick Nolte.
Yeah. Carl Weathers, I thought was so good. After Arrested Development, I thought his career's kind of petering out, but for him to be here as this kind of person that gives out the jobs to the bounty hunters, really good. And Taika Waititi as the IG droid. He's good at like voicing like inanimate objects. Let's talk about the final shot of the whole thing. The bounty that he's been sent to find was a baby Yoda, a 50-year-old baby Yoda.
Well, it's not actually Yoda.
No, like a Yoda. I don't know what his race
whatever his
is,
race is. Yeah, that was a surprise, and now I'm like even more intrigued. Just like I want to see what happens, because obviously, you know, he's not going to go on this adventure with a baby in tow the whole time. I mean, he might.
I think he is. If that's the tone they've set in episode 1, I think it's going to be like one man and a baby. He's going to literally have the baby like on his front while he's
like
shooting people.
Yeah. Because it was only 30 minutes, it was kind of like a tease. It's hard to really grasp like what a show is going to be in just 30 minutes. So I want to see more. I want to see where it's going. I want to get more of a feel for like what the universe is in this context and the direction of the show. I'm intrigued. I'm hooked. I'm quite happy I can't wait to see the next episode. Yeah. So I would definitely recommend this. Like, even if you're not a fan of Star Wars, give this a look. I think if you like things like Firefly, this will be right up your alley. The humor is a little bit different in The Mandalorian than it is in Firefly, but it's a lot of similar notes to it.
I'm not sold. I'm disappointed with how funny this was, but I shouldn't have been surprised because it's Disney, but I am surprised because of the trailer. I was ready to love this, but I don't love it. I think it can only get better as the season progresses.
So should we move on to His Dark Materials?
Yeah, let's talk about His Dark Materials. Probably the thing I enjoyed most this week. It's, as we talked about earlier, it's kind of difficult to review because everything's being done well.
Yeah, it's a very well-polished show. Yeah. I don't have any complaints about it whatsoever. I'm enjoying the ride immensely. The special effects are great. I love the demons. The acting is phenomenal, particularly the kids, which you don't always get with kids. And some of them are quite young, so it's even more impressive that they're delivering these like very powerful performances. Mrs. Coulter is just phenomenal.
Yeah, this was the episode where the mask began to slip. She was sickly sweet in episode 1, and now, I mean, I thought because there's not much to say, let's just talk about some of the set pieces. I mean, what did you make of when she set her demon on Lyra's demon?
That was amazing.
So good.
Both the animation of the demons and the two actors involved in the scene, like it was really believable. It was really an uncomfortable scene to watch because it was done so well. It's
an amazing concept, isn't it? That obviously Lyra was feeling the pain that Pantaleimon was getting because of this like demon monkey like clawing at him, and it was like Mrs. Coulter was trying to just say like, next time I'm going to kill you. It felt really dark.
Yeah,
it was a
really dark moment.
Yeah,
probably one of the darkest moments in the show so far.
Yeah, and I just love that she said, this has to happen like because of your vulgar behaviour. It was like, why can't you behave like a proper young woman?
Yeah.
And so she nearly kills her by setting her demon onto Lyra's demon. Do we assume that Mrs. Coulter isn't from this earth? and she doesn't have a demon.
That was kind of the assumption I made.
Yeah.
And then, like, when we first saw her demon in the study away from her, and Lyra was kind of like, how can you be so far apart? I don't understand. My first thought was she was from a different world, and then very shortly after that, we see a character come into our world.
Yeah.
Which I really loved. I thought it was amazing.
That was such a good moment. And a lot of people reacted badly to that because they said this is knowledge that we don't get till the second book. But if you've got lore from a whole series of books, use it. Why would you keep it a secret? You know, that portal has been cut, or that hole or window has been cut using the subtle knife from book 2. And for him to walk through straight into our world was so beautiful. It was an amazing moment.
Particularly, like, his demon as well was, like, always, like, up his sleeve and slithering around. It was just poking his little head out. It was so cool.
I like the mystery. I honestly can't remember how the story particularly unfolds.
I can't either. I mean, I was young when I read these books. I should read them again. I've actually been meaning to read them again since the Golden Compass came out.
One final set piece we have to talk about, which was the best moment of the entire episode. When the journalist, the woman from Krypton, was telling Lyra that Mrs. Coulter's a gobbler, Mrs. Coulter expels her from the house. Lord Boreal takes her into the car and just crushes her butterfly demon in his hand.
I'm surprised that, like, she died so quickly.
Oh, I mean, what a great visual. I mean, that teaches us everything we need to know about demons. We obviously saw the two demons fighting. We saw Lyra in pain, but he just crushed it, literally like a butterfly, and the journalist died.
Yeah. And
that was just wonderful. That was great TV. It's dark. It's not pulling its punches. It's the kind of darkness I was hoping from The Mandalorian, probably. This is satiating my bloodlust. So
every little bit we get from this show is just more and more satisfying. And I'm liking the little mysteries we have going on. Visually, it's kind of right up my alley. You've got that sort of, like, quasi-steampunk feel to it. And I mean, it's a great world. The whole concept of demons and dust and everything like that. Yeah, it keeps getting better.
First episode was in Jordan College. Second episode was in London. She's just been kind of kidnapped. I assume it's by the good people, though.
I mean, presumably she's not been abducted by the Gobblers since Mrs. Coulter is the head of the Gobblers.
And so it'll be 3 episodes, 3 different locations, and I think that's really important that we're seeing this world because it's, like you said, it's the quasi-steampunk, beautiful world. Everywhere they've gone so far has been a visual delight. And I hope, and this was my hope for Preacher as well, that we talked about on the Patreon bonus episode. The first 3 episodes, I think it was season 3 or season 4, I think it was season 3. They went to 3 different locations. I was like, yeah, let's have a road trip. Let's see some of this world because too often we've been bottled up in one location. And then they had 7 straight episodes, Preacher in one location. I really hope we continue to bounce around with Lyra. Keep discovering this world because it's been so beautiful. And I want to know more about her world. It's weird to not have any negatives to say about a TV show, but I feel like in the run-up to Christmas, if you are even slightly into a bit of sci-fi, you should be watching this TV show.
That does it for this week.
You can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Facebook, you can find us on Patreon, and we have a website.
geeknerdpod.com. Yeah, so
see you
see you next week.